In 1930, the Anglicans, in their conference, decided that contraception would be allowed for serious reason among married couples. This was the first time that a Christian denomination had broken on what everybody was holding as a teaching against contraception. What happened after that was that other denominations started picking up on it. The serious reason became good reasons, or the couple can decide the reasons, and then it was married couples, well, they don't have to be married. It's kind of evolved to where it is now. We are one of, Roman Catholics are one of the few who still hold to that initial teaching that was held by everybody until 1930. So if you're looking at the history of Christianity through over 2,000 years, these changes have all come down in the last 80. When you look at responsible parenthood, the reasons not to attempt to conceive a child, or to attempt not to conceive, excuse me. The reason, translations of Humana Vitae either use the word grave or use the word serious. I don't think we need to sit there and argue over grave versus serious and how the Latin translated, but it needs to be a reason that is more weighty than something more light. So in other words, if it's a risk to a mother's health, if the family is in serious financial straits and they're worried about the ability to provide for another child at that point, that's fine. If you're looking at, well, okay, if we have another child right now, we can't afford the vacation next year, in the course of evaluating seriousness of reasons, that would have less weight on the scale than being unable to provide for your family. Couples will often ask me when I'm doing NFP classes, well, how do you know if it's serious enough? And I'm like, well, you two pray about it together. Also, talk to a priest about it when you're in protection. I follow you. But no, seriously, like I have had couples where they've kind of been going, wow, is this the right time or not, or are our reasons good enough? Take it to prayer with God, take it to a priest you trust, and then, if you've prayed about it and worked hard to decide it, then trust what you've been given by God and go with it. I've tried to put in some lighthearted moments, so here's another one. Can you all read that? We had neighbors like that. They got a puppy, and they decided they could handle the puppy, they would try to do the baby. Right after they got their puppy was when we had the twins. So they saw me with a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 2 infants, and it took them a while to come around from moving from the puppy to the baby. They finally did it. But I think they saw us up a lot more with the twins than their living up with their puppy. Definition of NFP. Natural family planning is looking at methods of monitoring natural signs of fertility and using them to determine whether a woman is fertile or infertile. NFP also means abstaining from intercourse and genital activity during the fertile time of the cycle. When there are times where the couple is fertile, the couple will be asked to be intimate by means other than genital contact. Going back to the things you did when you were dating, going for long walks, holding hands, back rubs, it all still works. Not using any artificial means to interfere with fertility, and an overall openness for life. NFP versus contraception, the big bonus question. Why are we saying this versus contraception? People frequently ask that. They say, well, okay, you both want to avoid having a child right now, so what's the difference between my using the condom and your couple doing the charting thing? It's looking at ends, the end versus how you get there. So an example I provide, 2 men want to care for their families. One works harder to get a promotion, the other one robs a bank. They both have the same good goal, but they're getting there by 2 ways, and one is right and one is not. So even if the goal is good, how you get there matters. And I'm not going to read this to you, but if you kind of look at it, that basically, what the goal is and how you get there, and the difference does matter. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Seth, and I'm an NFP. And we pretty much...
I'm also NFP.
Wait, who are you?
NFP requires the cooperation between a man
huge problem in operations to me.
No, it actually builds upon our trust and understanding of one another.
You see, you're designed to take reproduction out of sexual relations. We're designed to keep the totality of sexual relations in perspective.
Love-giving
Life-giving.
and bonding.
But what about pleasure? Yeah.
It also builds us respectfully as a woman and increases our overall intimacy.
Who cares about overall intimacy? With me, you can get right to the fun stuff. Well, NFP users actually stay together longer with almost no divorce. Not to mention, we always report more gratifying sexual relations.
Because we're not holding our fertility from one another, it's a complete love-giving. I find it very noble of them.
She finds me noble. Your happiness disgusting. We know.
Those videos, there's a whole bunch of them on YouTube. A group of seminarians did them, I think in Omaha. So I encourage you, if you look up NFP versus contraception, you'll find there's a whole number of them. They do a lot of those based on those applications, so they're very cute. This is kind of, I'm starting to watch my time here to getting worried. So we have guest speakers. This is again going over the differences between NFP and contraception, and these things do bear out. And like I said, if you look at Humana Vitae and the predictions and look at where we've landed, you can see that actually those teachings do make sense. So when we're looking at contraception versus natural family planning, you have to look at ends and means, how are you getting there. Also, I mean, hopefully we'll get to that. Some of the ways that birth control pills work is actually what they call abortifacient. So aside from just blocking a pregnancy, it can work to derail a pregnancy that has already begun, and you could actually have an early abortion, and I'll get into that. Bob Jura mentioned docility several times in his prayer. This is a docility issue. Even if you don't exactly buy it, we're asked to trust it, and with time, God will give us the grace to grow into it. And my own story mirrored that when I first learned about birth control pills being abortifacient, when that bulletin insert I mentioned. I thought, well, okay, I won't do the pill anymore, but I can still refer people for sterilization, and I can still do fit diaphragms because they're not abortifacient. And this priest that my pastor referred me to said, no, you really need to stop doing the whole thing. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because, he goes, I can't really, he explained some stuff, but he's like, you know, ultimately, if you follow it, God will help you figure it out. And I don't know why I listened to him, but I did. And I swear, because I mean, I'm not that good at listening to anybody, ask anyone. But I mean, I listened, and I don't know why, but I just kind of felt like, okay, what do I have to lose? I'm already like, you know, how do I stop prescribing half of my stuff? I might as well stop prescribing all of my stuff and see if I still have a job anymore. And it worked, I still do. And the differences between NFP and contraception, and we do see this with couples, and I think Steve and Melissa will address this, that it's not just a change in what you were doing to plan your family, it becomes a change in mindset. And here are some of the benefits of NFP. Can you read the caption? I'm only going to say this one more time, our only chance is self-control. The boat with the bunnies is sinking. Okay, this was from the age when memes were popular. So anyway, this isn't what people talk about in NFP life. And I'm one of those doctors who does not do that to them. I know exactly what they're doing. And I guess it's time to watch It's a Wonderful Life because this is Christmas time. On that slide, but not because of that slide specifically, I'm going to introduce our, do you want to talk, and then we'll do a little break after that, I guess? Okay, I want to introduce Steve and Melissa Larson, and then I promise we'll give you a break, don't shoot me. They're the second couple I taught NFP to here back in a long time ago, when I was pregnant with Stephen and Patrick. Steve and Melissa were one of our, when Father Luke mentioned that there were couples who shared their witness stories, Steve and Melissa were one of the first couples to do that. They're both parishioners here. Melissa is a social studies teacher at Western Albemarle. Steve works in insurance for Knights of Columbus and State Farm. So I'll let them share their story a few minutes.
So I'm Melissa Larson.
I'm Steve Larson.
I'm originally from Herndon, Virginia, so I'm a Northern Virginia girl, and I actually grew up in St. Joseph's Parish, up there, one of the really large parishes.
And I went through RCIA, just as you guys are here. My parents were Easter Christmas Catholics, and I never got confirmed until I was older, so here I am.
We've been married almost 24 years. We've got our anniversary coming up in March, and we've got 2 children. We have a 23-year-old and we have a 16-year-old, both daughters. And we've been here in Charlottesville for 19 years, and I actually did my master's degree here at UVA. We've been parishioners here at St. Thomas for 19 years. So I think there are a lot of things people think about NFP. You have your favorite joke of what it actually stands for.
It's the no fun people. It actually is not.
So, some of the stereotypes, you never have sex. You are boring people out there. It's the reason Catholic families are so big. Or you're just crazy. And I guess we're here to try to convince you that maybe that's not true. Hopefully we'll manage to do that. We did not start off as an NFP couple. And I think a lot of that has to do particularly with our own parents and where our parents sort of grew up. Both of our parents got married in the 60s. And that was a time where priests didn't even talk about sex or anything like that. It was very much, it's up to your conscience. And my mom will still say, she thinks we're crazy. Our priest told us it was up to our conscience, at which point I would say, well, yeah, your priest isn't a priest anymore because he decided to leave the priesthood and marry a nun. So let's not go there, Mom. But, it was something that church didn't talk about at all. And really, the big NFP movement doesn't get rolling until the 80s. So we're kind of in that first generation of Catholics where we actually heard about it in our pre-Cana. And in fact, I think that was a really big deal to us when we heard about it.
Right, yeah, we went to pre-Cana back before there was a Cana. In 1991 in Northern Virginia. And couples that came in to talk about NFP one had 7 kids, the other had 8. And we said, I don't know, this doesn't look like it's going to be for us. But
I knew I wanted to be a teacher. We were both in school, and every year, I'm not just a parent to my 2 daughters at home. I'm a parent to 140 other people's children that walk in my door, and it takes a lot out of me. And sometimes I'll go home and I'll say to the kids, you better be good tonight, because I used up all my nice on my students. At which point they usually say, that's okay, Mom, we used up all our good on our teachers. I just thought we'd have more children. And we, at times, talked about it and prayed about it, and God didn't call us to that. God called me to what I do. And I know that He did, because I actually left teaching for 4 years to become a teacher advisor and teach people how to use their technology and do things like that, and discovered how much I missed it and how much I love working with kids. But it's a huge emotional piece for me, because there are 140 kids. I actually was texting with a kid who was asking me questions right before this presentation started, because I am like their mom at school. So for us, we went into our marriage doing what our parents expected us to do. They said, okay, when you get married, you get on the pill. When you're ready to have kids, you get off. When you're done having your kids, go get your tubes tied or vasectomy, whatever. That's what you do. That's just the expectation. It's pretty much what all of our friends have done. And so we went down that path and we started doing that. And it wasn't great. I had some issues with being on the pill, and the more I read about it, the more I found out about it, the thought that it could be abortifacient, it was painful. It was painful for me to think about that and to think about that happening. Because we love our children, and we love other people's children. And that's really, it was something that was very much burdening me. And in 1995, or 96, I guess, yeah, 96, I decided to be an RCIA sponsor. And that year, I sat in the little session that we had in the old church, in the old hall that used to be here. And Karen actually got up and she talked about NFP. And it really sparked me at that time, because the fact that this was a medical doctor who graduated first in her class at UVA, that was a really powerful thing for me to hear. And to know that this was somebody who wasn't a quack and clearly did not have 8 children, that maybe this was something that we could do. And so we actually went to Karen that summer and got trained, and at that point we really wanted to try for a second child, and it worked really well. I got pregnant right away. So it really has been a wonderful gift to us. So we've been doing NFP for 17 years now. And again, we have 2 children, because that's what God has called us to. So I want to talk a little bit more.
Well, I mean, we do talk more, even though right now I'm very nervous, so I'm not talking much at all. We talk more, and we're more open with each other, and I just think it's made our marriage stronger.
I think the big thing is getting to that idea of submitting to God and of having that abstinence in your life. Because it's a good thing. It's a discipline thing. And it does. It forces us to have those conversations, including your favorite question.
How's your jar?
Yeah. You know, and that's not become a romantic question in our house, but it is. It's something that really forces us to have that conversation and to be prayerful and to be thoughtful and to invite God into our lives, and in particular into our sex life, because I think that that's very much something that people try to do, is they just, you know, hey God, you can be a part of every other aspect of my life, but not this part. We got this one. And it's not. You don't have it. Really and truly, God is in charge, no matter what. And this is a great way for you to be prayerful about it, to be talking about it. And it's the fact that you're doing it together. It's not like just one of you has to suffer. It's not just one of you that is dealing with the issue. It's both of us. And it's both of us together making these decisions. And that's really powerful. So, you want to talk about any of the other stereotypes?
Well, I mean, you've touched on the stereotype of the NFP family that has lots of kids, which is what we saw when we took pre-Cana, is not true. We have 2 children. We're not called to have any more, but if we are, then we're open to that. You know, several other NFP couples we know have 1, 2 children. They don't all have big families. Some do, and some are called to that. And if they, you know, if you're called to that, that's what you do. But we at least are open to the idea of children as God wants us to.
And it's not the rhythm method. That's what you hear all the time. I even got like a book that was given out to me at work about health issues, and it talked about NFP, you know, the rhythm method. That's not what it is. It's not where I just guess out exactly when I might possibly be fertile. There's a lot of science behind it, and it's science that both works to avoid a pregnancy and science that works to achieve a pregnancy. And Karen and I are going to talk a lot about that, so I asked
Really fast.
really fast about that aspect of it. The best part's about it, it's healthy. It's a healthy way to go about planning your family. You're not taking any drugs. It doesn't cost you anything. The thermometer is super cheap. It's easy to do. And it's just so much better for your marriage because it does force you to talk. And it's forced us to have conversations that I don't think we would have had otherwise. Because if you're contracepting, you don't really have to think about it. But when you're an NFP couple, you do. You think, you pray, you talk. And those are such wonderful things that can help out a marriage when you're both supportive of it. And it is really good spiritually because it does bring God into the family. And we're happy to answer any questions you guys have.
And also, NFP couples are less likely to have divorces, and we've had 0 divorces.
So we'd love to talk to you anytime, but I know they want a break, right? Take a break.